Today I want to update you what the progress on this Indonesian ICT infrastructure situation. I do believe that without the proper ICT infrastructure deployment throughout Indonesia as an enabler, the digital economy cannot reach its pace. So it's important to make sure that the ICT infrastructure being properly deployed throughout the nations. COVID-19 cannot stop us to continue to deploy the ICT infrastructure to connect Indonesia. Okay. In the first layer, fiber optic layers, the broadband layer, Indonesia has already deployed almost 360,000 kilometer length of fiber optic, inland as well as subsea network. So this year we will also connect the unconnected dot, which we will build another 12,000 kilometer length of fiber optic, to make sure that the whole network are properly in place throughout the nation. So, and in the second layer, we continue to build the fiber links, microwave links, as well as the satellites. As you may be aware, that in a very remote and difficult geographical area in Papua, we cannot connect Papua only with the fiber optics, but we need to combine with the microwave link and the fiber link, which is we are now doing it to connect the dots in Papua as well as the Kalimantan. So Indonesia now is using 9 satellites to support Indonesian capacity demand for the telecommunications. But the total capacity is about 50 gigabit per second. But at the same time, in our pipelines, we have already secured 2 high throughput satellites. The first one, Satria 1, which will be launched, will be put into orbit by the second quarter next year. And the hot standby satellites, also 150 gigabit per second, which will be even earlier launched to the orbit by the first quarter next year. We do hope by end of next year, there will be around 300 gigabit per second satellites to support the Indonesian demand for satellites. This satellite may also support the Southeast Asia satellite demand, if needed. We also already put in our pipelines the twin satellite, 2 times 150 gigabit per second, which in total will be 600 gigabit per second to support the satellite capacity for Indonesia. This is a huge investment by the government. This is to support the Indonesian public service, schools, government offices throughout the nations, the security and safety offices throughout the nations, as well as health facility, health center, throughout the nations. But this is a dedicated service, means that during the business hours that will be used by the government, but after business hours that could be used by the people, the local people, at no cost to them, because this has been paid by the government. And the last mile, we are now building the base transceiver stations. Indonesia now has already deployed 500,000 base transceiver stations. But that's not enough. We still need to connect all the blank spots throughout the nations, especially in the very remote and rural area, so-called 3T. Yeah, in the very rural area. While at the same time, the telecommunication operator, also they are doing their parts to make sure that all the villages in the commercial area will be served by the 4G network. The 4G will be Indonesian backbone telecommunication network. Yeah. So we do hope by the end of this government period, the whole nations will be served by the 4G network including the very remote area, by using the first layer, the backbones for the backbones, the middle miles, the satellites, as well as the base transceiver stations. At the end of this government period, Indonesia will be supported with this very comprehensive and sophisticated 4G network. So this may help all this downstream business, downstream of this digital economy, and I do hope that it will be, will help, the downstream economy, digital economy, and the upstream ICT infrastructure that we are planning to do, and we are now doing it, as well as we will do also the downstream ICT infrastructure. The downstream ICT infrastructure, including the national data centers to support the cloud-based electronic governments. We will bid for integrated national data center. This is a tier 4 global standard in Jakarta. The first one is now, the groundbreaking will be done by mid of this year. And the second one will be in Batam. The third one in Labuan Bajo in the southern part of Indonesia, as well as in the new capital city in Balikpapan or in IKN. IKN is the new Indonesian capital city. This is now planned to be built. This will help Indonesia to support the one data policy, to make sure to make it possible for data-driven policy making. So this is what we are trying to do in Indonesia to support the digital infrastructure upstream as well as the downstream. This is my job, together with the operator cellular, and I do believe we will fulfill it. Now it depends on you how to use it. But in Indonesia also, we need to have not only the ICT infrastructure, but we need to make sure that the digital talent also meet the demand. The demand of the digital talent is very huge. Last year, we do the training for the basic digital skills for 12.5 million of Indonesians in 1 year. And at the same time, we are preparing Indonesian talent, for the intermediate digital skills. This year, we will do is around 200,000 millennials, to support this 9 million Indonesian. We need the 9 million digital intermediate talents for the next 15 years. Means that each year we need to make sure to have 600,000 intermediate digital skills, which is not easy. Government only support for 200 or 1/3 of it, 200,000, and I do hope that the ecosystem also will join us to make sure that intermediate digital talent will be available in numbers and the quality. In numbers and their capacity. So these are joint effort with these global technology companies, and I am also still, would like to have all the ecosystem, including telecommunications operators, to join us to make sure that the intermediate skills will be available on time. And we also do, the training to support the digital policy making. Now, this digital policy makings, not many, but it's about 500 seats for every year. This in cooperation with 8 top global universities like Oxford, MIT, Cambridge, LSE, and many others. Tsinghua University, National University of Singapore, to make sure that the digital policy makers will be available for government to support the government policies, as well as to support the startup founders, digital startup founders. That's what we are doing in Indonesia. As enabler, we prepared everything. We prepared the infrastructure, we prepared the also support these talents, and of course the regulations. We are in the process of finalizing many regulations that require to support the digital economy And as you may be aware, that last year, 2021, Indonesia contribute about approximately 70 billion US dollars for the digital economy. That's 40% of the Southeast Asia digital economy. And it is projected double in 2025, and it could be reached up to 315 billion US dollars in 2030. And this is, I believe, this is a good market. And I invite everyone, all these investors, partners, to come to Indonesia and join us, enjoy this lucrative digital economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Joni. Now, I think you've done a great job in laying out what the environment is like, investing from the government's perspective, investing in the right infrastructure, investing in the right policies and the right kind of goals and objectives, and then also investing in the right kind of foundation for the talent of today and tomorrow. Now I want to go over to Andre and ask him to share a little bit more color in terms of, GoTo is one of the benefactors of this enabling environment. So can you explain a little bit more about how this digital infrastructure, how this digital talent, how the government's targets and so forth have helped GoTo become where it is today? And what about the merchants that are also part of GoTo's ecosystem, how they've benefited from this?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Andre. I'm the CEO of GoTo Group. So I think, as Pa Joni mentioned, I think, a lot of this ecosystem thrive because everyone plays a big role in like collaborations and whatnot. And between governments, policy, starting with infrastructure, without telecommunication and network accessibility for everyone, in getting into the digital economy is not possible. And for the last 3 to 5 years, the development of many accessibility connection has been one of a key enabler, so that anyone who has access to connectivity can actually be part of the ecosystem of digital. So that the job for technology companies like ourselves made much easier, and the users and also the stakeholders that we can actually target became so much larger very fast. Gojek itself and Tokopedia, we have actually gone through 99% of districts in Indonesia and then provide services that is accessible to everyone. If it's not because of the infrastructure that Pa Joni and the team has been building, it wouldn't be possible. So that's number one. Number two is, I think a lot of the policies has progressed quite significantly in Indonesia as well, that is actually pro-digital. I think obviously during COVID, the acceleration has been much more tremendous, because obviously at that time, economic opportunity for a lot of small, medium businesses and also users who needs to stay at home allows a lot of innovations to happen during that time, so that the acceleration of merchants going digital, users really equipping themselves with a lot of these digital use cases has been a very tremendous acceleration. So what we probably got in the first 5 years during COVID, last 2 years, the number got doubled very easily because of all of that. So it's actually a really good environment to actually make something that is not possible before to be accelerated. Now, but that doesn't stop there, because we know that something that is great needs to be better, so that the kind of a lot of this new behaviors can actually stay for good. So I think a lot of the policies that government and also private sectors also help to actually accelerate is important, because connectivity is there, but to be able to ease a lot of the ecosystem, especially for small, medium businesses to thrive, there's a lot of things needs to be built. Even from payments perspective, Bank of Indonesia is doing a lot of innovative solution to actually allow interoperability payments, seamless payments to be made through BI Fast, to be made interoperable, almost free of payment, so very cost efficient. Those kind of enablement will actually help make digital kind of access to small medium business to be much more affordable. And therefore, again, being a technology company that inheriting all of that is actually going to make a lot of the life for companies like ours to be easier, because you can then build the right innovations on top of it, and being able to kind of help all the businesses and ecosystem to thrive. Now, for GoTo, we experienced it in the last 2 years. We have more than 1 million merchants joining the Gojek and Tokopedia ecosystem during COVID, and we last year alone we contributed more than 3% of Indonesia's GDP went through our platform, and we're a marketplace. We don't sell our own goods, so everything goes back to small medium businesses, entrepreneurs, and whatnot. And I think what's also great during the very tough economic situation, we also see there's a lot of acceleration of first-time entrepreneurs coming on board. Maybe he or she was actually affected by COVID in their previous jobs. They started to become an entrepreneur. It could be in their house somewhere, and started like a food business, or like some e-commerce kind of item business and stuff. But because of the role of this digital platform, everything is accessible, and that itself has been hopefully one of the source for Indonesia continue recovery in terms of the economy and whatnot. And this is actually going to be a very good trend, especially with all talents develop, more and more entrepreneurs. I mean, even today there's a metaverse company here. All this is actually really a testimony of how policy, infrastructure, entrepreneurship it actually congregate. And then on top of it, we experience it ourselves as well. It used to be hard for a technology company in Indonesia to become access to a larger capital market, but recently even our Indonesian regulators, OJK, Financial Service Authority, changes the landscape for technology companies like ourselves to be able to become a public company, and we just did. And that actually also become a really kind of a center for everyone to be able to then grow and then become a public company, a locally founded public company. And that's actually an ecosystem that is super, super good, end to end, right? So I think it's a good time to be in Indonesia, become an entrepreneur in Indonesia, invest in Indonesia, and thanks to the government that's super supportive for developing all of this.
Thanks, Andre. So I think what we have here is an incredible example of how public-private collaboration can bring about real kind of impact and an incredible growth story for Indonesia overall. With that, I actually want to move more downstream and invite, I believe we have Aldi from Dua Coffee and Valencia from Keripik Balado Shirley on stage. These are two GoTo partners, which is very exciting. And maybe, ladies first, Valencia, I'll start with you. How has this digital economy, how has the rise of digital economy helped you in your business, in digitizing your business especially, and during the pandemic with all the negative impacts that came with that?
Okay, thank you. Keripik Balado Shirley has started since 1994. It's like around, 28 years already. We sell so many keripik balado all around Indonesia. And then in 2009, there was an earthquake in Padang. Padang is where the keripik balado. And then the building raised, and then we almost closed the keripik balado Shirley. And then the pandemic hit in 2020. There was no profit at all. When the pandemic hits, Shirley thinks how to still operate the store, and then it's really the worst, the nightmare that happened to us. And the very good thing of the digital economy, we joined GoTo, Gojek, Tokopedia, and then so many digital platform for online selling since maybe around 2019. But the thing is, when the first time we started the online marketing, it's really hard for us to operate at the beginning. And then when we find the right strategy, we find the right resources to manage how to promote, to sell the things all around the internet, it increased the profit maybe like 30 until 50% before we use the online. Yeah, thank you, Mas Andre. Why we need to say thank you to Mas Andre? Because it's not only help Shirley and the family, because this is a family business, right? Shirley accommodates like 80 small and medium enterprises all around West Sumatra, and all the families really thankful to Mas Andre with GoTo and with Pak Joni, because we already have the digital tools. We do understand we can access the internet properly, not only in Padang as the capital city of the West Sumatra, but also in the rural area in West Sumatra. We can access the internet and we can sell the product whatever it is. Yeah.
Thanks, Valencia. That was incredibly inspiring. I'm going to hand it over now to Aldi with the same question. What about in Dua Coffee's context?
Okay, Dua Coffee is actually started in 2016. We are actually, Mas Andre, we are actually the first 200 to use Mocha Post. So we've been trusting Mocha Post since 2016. And so coffee shop is actually a service type of, enterprise. And then when we actually don't have the digital platform until the pandemic time. And since 2020, when the pandemic hits, we all do digital, go digital. We have the Tokopedia store. We also have GoFood store. And then the good thing is that our sales is actually raised by 140% after we go digital. So thanks to the platform, it helped us survive the pandemic, and I can say that we are surviving the pandemic. We have more than 120 employees, and we don't lay over them during the pandemic. So thanks to the platform, Mas Andre.
Look, I don't want it to be all rosy colored. I'm gonna come back to both of you with a question later about some of the challenges and I think some of the things that you'd like to highlight, especially considering the public and private sector leaders we have represented here. But to Pak Joni, now I want to hand it over to you. A quick question. Now you've heard from some of the merchants who have benefited from the digital economy and some of the regulations and policies and programs that your ministry has been put in place. What is your vision for the future for some more Indonesian merchants? And then what do you think other countries can learn from Indonesia's example?
Okay, thank you. We are building and deploy this ICT network throughout the nations to bridge the digital divide, not without objective. I think that everyone knows that Indonesia has 64 million small medium enterprises. And Indonesian SMEs share 60% of the Indonesian GDP. So we have to make sure that the SMEs survive. My message to the platform is, please make sure to support the Indonesian product, Indonesian SMEs, and do the import substitutions. Every nations have to protect their own small medium enterprises, especially for Indonesia, which contribute 60% of the Indonesian GDP. So please, bear in mind and make sure to support the Indonesian SMEs. Second message is that the ICT deployment not only for e-commerce, But also I want to make sure that the fintech also develop well. The edutech and the health tech also will be developed well in Indonesia. You know, so by having all this together, properly deployed and operate in Indonesia, I do believe that Indonesian economy will rise and rose, you know, and we all will benefit it from that. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Pat. I believe we have a special guest in the audience. Is that correct? Naz? Yes, the famous YouTuber.
Sorry, we're just walking around.
That's all right, please. Welcome. Do you have any insights you'd like to share about Indonesia and the digital economy and opportunities? We'll make a YouTube video out of this.
So I have never been to Indonesia.
No, what?
For other reasons, but I will be going in 2 months.
Great.
And I feel like Indonesia is like the future.
Well, you have the right people here to introduce you to Indonesia, so we're very looking forward to welcoming you.
Thank you guys. I'm super honored.
Thank you.
Incredible. All the entrepreneurship in Indonesia, all the G20, Bali, everything you guys are doing is incredible. So really an honor to be here. Thank you
Thanks.
guys.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Naz.
much.
Thank you. So that was great. All right, I lost my train of thought now. No, look, thanks, Pat, for sharing some of your aspirations. Andre, I want to hand it back to you for the same question. What are some of your aspirations, especially in context of GoTo's partners and knowing what's in the future for the company? What would you like to see in the next few years, especially as, you know, for the digital economy and some of the objectives that you know the government has?
Yeah, I think the last five years has been great to give birth on all the digital platform that is locally founded. But as mentioned, I think what is great needs to be developed more so that it becomes, you know, really sustainable and can give birth to more and more. I think Indonesia, as mentioned, we have a large market. Pajoni mentioned that we contributed 40% of Southeast Asia's digital economy. It could be more. Everyone wants to be in Indonesia. Large companies, you know, Facebook, Google, everyone wants to be in Indonesia, but everyone's seeing us sometimes to be just a market. So the development in terms of talent is important. So everyone needs to contribute so that, you know, I think Pajoni mentioned earlier, if we have like 10 million of digital talents, those are the talents that every local startup, local entrepreneurs, you know, all the entrepreneurs in Indonesia can actually deploy so that the contribution can be 10x, you know, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. That's something that needs to be developed further. Talents availability, the depth of talent, and also their capabilities, because as you can see, now we live in a Web 3.0 world, and now we talk about blockchain, you know, crypto, you know, metaverse and stuff. So everything is actually happening really fast. And if we don't continue to develop that with public-private partnership and also contribution from global tech companies who wants to be in Indonesia, that's actually is not achievable. The second is, as mentioned, a lot of infrastructure has been developed really well, but then there's the next stage, right? I think Pajoni mentioned about fintech. It's very important. So because we all wanted to have financial inclusion as one of the biggest goal, serving the underbanked or unbanked so that they can actually be participating. But if the cost of moving money is expensive, digital identity, authentication, fighting fraud, because sometimes when you go digital, everything, all the fraudulent activities is gonna create so much expense and also actually create distrust to the system when the platform is there's so many fraudulent actors coming into it. So there's a lot of development that needs to be done. I think to give an example, India with UPI has been really great in like accelerating the financial inclusion, and something that Bank of Indonesia is actually, and OJK has already started developing as well. I think if we can continue with that path, then access becomes cheaper because of Pajoni's infrastructure, and also access becomes cheaper because of all the financial infrastructure. that will be such an amazing opportunity because again, to innovate, to help merchants that we discussed earlier can be much easier and access is going to be even greater. So that's actually a great thing. So hopefully we can continue the path between public and private collaboration, and we can continue to be very focused in determining which one is important, policy, infrastructure, and also all the development. And therefore, in 2030, hopefully, not 40%, but maybe 60% of digital economy in Southeast Asia is contributed from Indonesia. So I think that is super possible.
Certainly ambitious vision there. I'm going to go back to Aldi and Valencia now. Look, no pressure, but speaking on behalf of the millions of MSMEs in Indonesia, I'd like to hear what, knowing the leaders represented here today and in the audience as well, what are some of the challenges that you've faced personally, or you believe a lot of the micro SME and small medium enterprises in Indonesia face, that you wish you could see change? It's a hard question, so.
Okay, before the previous talk, we talk about the general plan. It's like the macro one. The small and medium enterprises, the society, maybe they don't really understand how to project the plan because it's that macro, right? But if we do the job, if we put ourselves to their shoes, you're gonna feel like this is a different era. When there is the internet, this is something new. This is really new. Maybe 4.0, 3.0, or 2.0, we already talked about it like years before. They just feel and do just right now. After we already introduced with Gojek, Tokopedia, and then what else? You name it, Shopee. The thing is, there is the super app of Gojek. We call it GoBiz. GoBiz help us very much. So this application make it more user friendly because the one who operate the system is not the younger generation. Don't say they are like 18 or 25. No, the one who operates the system is my mother, 47, 55, 60 years old. How could we expect they understand how to use something in the internet? How could we expect them to understand more about internet can do so many things? They don't understand it. So the challenge is that I think how to communicate, how to deliver the system to the small and medium enterprises to use it wisely and with the strategy. Because if you just join it without any kind of strategy, without any good support of the internet access, it's nothing. You cannot do anything with that. You even don't understand. If we do that, we will understand it very quickly. But they don't. That's the challenge.
Thanks, Valencia. Now maybe Aldi, I'm going to change the question a little bit. Oh, no. I'm keeping you on your toes. We've heard, feel free to also share some of the challenges that you faced or that you believe other MSMEs are also facing. But what would you like to see from a platform company like GoTo? What would you like to see from the government as well in response to some of those challenges?
Okay. So I think we live in an era that information is free and accessible to everyone. So using the digital platform like Instagram, and then with Pajone Ministry also, you share information every day in their social media platform, that we young entrepreneurs has to go, digital, and then probably I think the challenge is actually not so many entrepreneurs knows what they wanted to do like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And then when they caught up in the daily routine, they forgot where they needed to go. So if entrepreneur wanted to do business, you have to make a very long map. What do you want to do first? What do you want to accomplish first year, second year, third year, fifth year, and so on and so forth. So, and then also the platform, the digital platform like Mas Andre, and then the one that Pa Joni said about the fintech, that we also need the funding to grow bigger, actually. And also, yeah, I think that's the funding is actually one of the biggest challenge for small medium enterprise to to go big or to sustain for now. I mean, because all of the pandemic.
Thanks, Aldi. Now, in 30 seconds or less, Pak Johnny and Andre, now you've heard some of the challenges from Valencia and Aldi. You've heard them share their own experiences as merchants. What is a commitment that you're willing to make here today in response to some of those challenges?
Funding.
So the answer is money.
Thank you. My second message, to
Yes.
close this, my second message is to the digital platform. Please make sure that you have a proper cybersecurity management. That's very important, to make sure that people trust and believe and rely on you. Make sure that the technology, the encryption technology are the latest version of the encryption technology are properly deployed in your system. You have the management system, a proper management system, and the talent for cybersecurity. This is very important, My commitment is we will deploy throughout the nations the ICT infrastructure. We will close the digital divide, and we invite the Indonesian SMEs to join us, to join and take part on this digital economy. Now, up to now, I am informed that it's about 18 million Indonesian SMEs already digital onboarding. So now the job is to scale them up, and make sure that the product are there, and everyone can enjoy together for this local trade Indonesian digital economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Johnny. Andre, your commitment?
Well, I mean, if everyone that knows our tagline, mulai aja dulu karena pasti ada jalan. So it's actually a really good summary, because if we have to continue to invest to make everything much simpler to use, accessible, access to funding, everything it's such a big package. So I think our commitment is continue to innovate to make sure that everyone, if you have a good idea, good food, you just have to go into the GoTo platform. You make life easy to actually start a business, and that's the commitment.
So are we going to see Gojek and GoFood in Davos next year? Is that the commitment? Look, we have about 10 minutes left, and so I want to hand it over to the audience if there's any questions. I don't know if there's a mic going around. Folks, this is a unique opportunity to ask anything you'd like to these great speakers that we've had today. Or they've just left you all speechless. Yeah. Yes, sure.
I think this is to Andre, just to get a little bit of like a view into what you're expanding into next. I mean, you said continue to innovate, but what does that actually mean for small businesses as well as the other infrastructure or enterprises that are supporting the platform? That's what we want to hear, yes.
So I think so in GoTo we basically, obviously everyone knows that we run on-demand services, e-commerce and payments, but what a simplified version is that we build platform that engage with customer. We run logistics and we run payments and fintech to help transactions to be easier, right? There's a lot of things that needs to be done there. For instance, making logistics faster but cheaper. That's a big commitment. I think everyone in the world that uses Amazon Prime Now, for instance, Amazon Prime Now used to be 3 days promise, become 1 day, and then 12 hours, then 6 hours, 4 hours, and it becomes accessible for everyone. Obviously, that's in the developed country. In countries like Indonesia, where we're island-based and stuff, that's actually more difficult. But if we don't invest into that infrastructure, how do we actually build something that's more accessible? Like, for instance, someone that wants to buy do a coffee, if they have to pay $1 for delivery versus paying 30 cents, with 30 cents, that the market is actually expand, right? So that buying things online is accessible for everyone, not just people who has the economic capability. Similar to payment and fintech, we talked about a lot of the infrastructure, and also getting access becomes cheaper and stuff. So those are innovation that requires time and development to make. But once we get there, the market is going to open up for all merchants to get to more customers, and customers will enjoy the services better but cheaper as well, and that becomes something that is very unique. So it's innovation in some sense, but it's also a lot of operational control and execution. So that's something that is quite exciting for all of us. Yeah.
Thanks, Andre. Questions? More questions? Wow, we have left. All right. So I think we are almost at time, so we are going to wrap up. I believe we have a photo that we need to take with the panelists. So everyone can... Do we have a photographer to take? Yeah? All right, great. Shall we stand? Come on.